Hey everybody, my name is Calebhoenshell. I'm a gaffer and key grip local here to the Northwest Arkansas region. I wanted to talk today about a situation or a scenario that you might not often find yourself in, but it definitely can happen whether you're a DP, a gaffer, or a key grip, or just a grip or an electric, working some of these jobs that might call for this. And this is specifically talking about a night for day interior. Shooting when it's dark outside, but shooting interior and lighting it to make it look like it's daytime. So you're talking about like maybe a bedroom, a dining room was the instance that I used. And depending on the scope of the size of the room, that really creates a lot of varying degrees of difficulty. So we're gonna go over that type of scenario. So without further ado, let's get into it. So one of the things that you really first need to think about, and if you're on the G&E team, this is a discussion you need to have with your DP, are you going to be looking out windows? Sometimes, and I would say it's a little rare that this happens, but sometimes you can get away with not even seeing a window at all. And if that's the case, the process becomes much, much easier because you don't have to fake blown out windows in the background. But let's just assume, for all intents and purposes, that you are going to be seeing out a window. So what we had to do for my example was, I thought we were gonna have to do a 12 by 12 ultra bounce outside, but we ended up just being able to do an 8 by 8, which I was very thankful for. I didn't want to have to do a 12 by if we didn't have to. So we put up an 8 by 8 ultra bounce, obviously with the white side facing toward the window. And then I put two of my Nova P600Cs, and they were down on turtle base stands, and those were just uplighting into the ultra bounce. So what we're achieving when we do this is we are not only creating nice soft light that's coming in from the window, so kind of like a nice ambient skylight, but we're also creating the effect or the look of a blown out sky in the background. And this really goes a long way to sell the effect of shooting night for day. So once we did that, then we needed a little bit more ambient. So I set up a 6x6 on kind of the opposite side, and then bounced a Forza 720B into that. And for this, I didn't use the Fresnel, I just used the Scoop intensifier dish, because I believe that gives you more output than the Fresnel on the wider end. Obviously with the Fresnel you can spot it in and achieve more light level that way, but for this purpose I just wanted to fill up that ultra bounce. And then for some hard sunlight coming in, I set up an Evoke 1200B in between those two ultra bounces. So this is kind of an interesting concept when you're shooting a night for day, is that it's not just setting up a big light source and punching some hard light through a window that can get you part of the way there, but what you really also need is you do need some ambient, because if you think about it, even if direct sunlight is coming through a window, no matter what time of day it is, generally you're gonna have, especially in the afternoon time, you're gonna have quite a bit of ambient light coming in through the sky, bouncing off of fences or grass or whatever. And so it is very important to at least do a little bit of work to try to fake that. If I had more time and if I had, probably a bigger team, I would have done a few more things, I think, with this. Maybe set up another 720 out between those two ultra bounces with a softbox, or even made, a 12 by a 12 by and bounced more lights into them. So once I had the 1200B set up, that was our punchy hard light that was coming in from the window. And I noticed once we got further along in the process that light was rather hard on her. And so I wanted to soften it off just a little bit. So what I ended up doing is arming out a 4x4 frame of 251, I believe is what it was. And basically I left it on her body nice and hard, and I left it on the background nice and hard. So really the only portion of the frame that was being used, of the 4x4 frame that was being used, was the kind of the bottom right corner. And I'll drop some B-roll in to show you more what I mean, but I felt that was a little bit necessary. It was just a little bit too hard on her face, and that was something that I wanted to avoid. Even though, if it was actual sunlight, it would be very hard on her face. But you kind of embellish it just a little bit as well. So once I did that, I decided, we probably also need a couple things inside as well. So the first thing was haze. So I hazed it up a little bit, and then I took another 720B and I put the Fresnel on it and bounced it into the ceiling to give it a little bit more ambient, just to add a bit more ambient. And then I also put a 300B Mark II. I put that in a softbox with the grid on, and heavy diffusion on it as well, and just aimed it directly at her. Again, just to kind of give it a little bit more ambient, but also fill in her face, fill in those hard shadows just a little bit more. And the end product, I'm honestly pretty happy with. I think there was a few things I could have done differently. I probably would have put up a little bit more ambient, another ultra bounce, or maybe a bigger ultra bounce with more light fixtures bouncing up into them, or even something like another 720B outside through a large 5-foot softbox or something like that. That might make it a little bit easier. So that's what we did, and as a bit of a debrief, what I learned from it, I'd done this a couple times in various capacities, as gaffer, as key grip, or as just an electric in the past. But I think one of the things that can't be overstated is ambient light. That really is what sells it. So I do think I have an example in here of what it's like with just the hard sunlight coming in, which is a kind of a misconception. You really do need more than just one beam of sunlight coming in. You need a lot of ambient. It really is quite amazing how much ambient light fills up the bedrooms and living rooms and dining rooms, in this case dining rooms. Yeah, it really is amazing how much ambient light fills up those rooms. So that is one thing that I think really can't be overstated, and it is very helpful if you're gonna do this for like a short film or a commercial or whatever. It is very helpful to have, I would say, at least 2 light fixtures that you can bounce up into the ceiling, or put on a softbox, or through a 4x4 diffusion frame, what have you. Basically just something to fill in the shadows a little bit and bring up the ambient. Because to truly sell the daytime look, you have to mimic that ambient light. It's not just the hard sun coming in. You really do have to mimic that ambient light quite a bit. And I think that's one thing that really busts it for a lot of people, is that they don't do enough ambient light coming in. So with all that being said, the only other note that I had learning from it is simply, I like to warm the sun up just a little bit. I can't really remember the final settings that we had, but I do remember the sun was at least like 500 Kelvin warmer than the ambient daylight, which is pretty typical as to what you'd see with the actual sun and actual ambient. So I believe typically ambient is somewhere around like 6,500 Kelvin actually. The ambient sky is very blue light, whereas the sun is a much warmer source. So with all that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. Comment down below if you have any tips on shooting night for day. Also comment any questions. I'm happy to try to answer those to the best of my ability. Thank you guys again so much for watching, and have a great day.